souls to Jesus Christ. Amen? We have a student in sub 30. His name is Caleb Koneman, and he is sitting on the front row, very nervous now about what I'm going to say about him. Caleb is a JU football player. He is new. He played at the Air Force. He came down here so he could get up under my tutelage as a football player. And Caleb was talking about how, you know, it's hard being a Christian in college on a football team surrounded by people that don't necessarily have the same beliefs that you do. And so we were talking about it, and the thing that got me about it, and the thing that I noticed in my conversation with him last week, is that Caleb didn't complain about it. He didn't say, well, you know, there's just a bunch of heathens and God can just have their way with them. You know, the hell's going to be full of people. I mean, he didn't say anything like that. He didn't say anything like that at all. He goes, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to get the whole football team to start coming to sub 30. I'm going to get the whole team to start coming. And so what was amazing is this past Wednesday, I see these massive guys just walk in. I wanted to jump on one of their backs, but I would even have just thrown me like a rag doll. And so, but what I saw is awesome. Pastor Stovall preached this past Wednesday at sub 30. I'm telling you this, and I'm not saying this because he's in here. No, I'm not. It was the best sermon. It was the best sermon that I've ever heard him preach, ever. And it was unreal. And so, but as I was standing there getting ready to come up afterwards, as he gave the altar call, I saw one of the football players, bro, he goes and raised his hand to accept Christ. And so in that moment, I'm just like, man, Caleb used what he was tied to, his football team, to connect him to the lost, to win more souls to Christ. So we all need to do this. That's what Paul used. The second thing that Paul used, if you're taking notes, is Paul used his critics. And I'm going to read from verses 15 to 19. It is true that some preach Christ out of envy and rivalry, but others out of goodwill. The latter do so out of love, knowing that I am put here for the defense of the gospel. The former preach Christ out of selfish ambition, not sincerely supposing that they can stir up trouble for me while I'm in chains. But what does it matter? The important thing is that in every way, whether from false motives or true, Christ is preached, and because of this, I rejoice. Paul is saying, listen, I'm in prison. He's writing this in prison, chained to a guy that he's like, you don't know about Jesus? And as he's writing this to the church of Philippi. And Paul's like, listen, there are men out there that are preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. Some are doing it for selfish gain. Some are doing it for political gain. Some are doing it for money. Some are doing it for whatever reason. But then there are other people that are preaching Christ while I'm in prison for no other reason but to make my life harder in prison. And I love Paul's response, and it once again shows us that Paul took ground because he was single-mindedly focused on the cause of Christ. He said, there are some men out there that are preaching Christ for no other reason but to hurt me, but who cares? Paul says, who cares? Who cares if them trying to hurt me, if them preaching Jesus tries to hurt me, as long as Jesus is being preached? Paul's like, I don't care. See, what Paul knew was that his life was not his own. Paul knew that his life was to glorify God. And so Paul is just saying over and over, listen, if they want to preach Jesus and it hurts me, so be it. Because at the end of the day, my life is all about taking ground from the enemy. My life is always about glorifying God. And if glorifying God gets me critics, then so be it. And so the same thing, listen, the same thing goes for us. Our lives are not our own. Our lives, we were not created for ourselves. First, Colossians 1:16 says that all things were created by Jesus Christ for Jesus Christ. So you and I, we were created for Jesus Christ. And because we are created for Jesus Christ, the whole purpose of our life is to glorify God in absolutely everything that we do. Yes, you have a purpose. Yes, you have a call. And when God made you, He thought about that. And when you step into the plans that God has for your life and you live life in a godly, God-honoring way, what happens is you glorify God through that. And so here's my question. If you living a God-honoring life gets you critics, who cares? Listen, there is no way, because this world doesn't understand it, there is no way that you are going to walk through this life living a God-honoring life and not get critics. But who cares? Because our life at the end of it, man, is to glorify God, is to draw people to Christ. And when you live a God-honoring, and love people the way that Jesus did, man, you're going to have critics. I don't know if you guys watched this past week were the MTV Video Music Awards. And the category for Best Male Video came up. I didn't win this year. I didn't submit a video. But my protege won, Justin Bieber. And I said, get him, little Biebs, and I smacked him on the butt as he walked up to the stage. And so Justin Bieber won Best Male Video. Okay, now you just have to take into context what I'm getting ready to explain to you. When I say that there are people in the crowd that don't believe in Jesus, I think we can all understand when Lady Gaga is wearing like a meat suit of or cellophane wrap, and there's Lil Wayne, and there's all these people out there that everything that they say basically is against God and against the Bible, that there are some people out there that aren't believers and on the same page. So here's a 17-year-old boy that wins for Best Male Video. He walks up onto the stage in front of everybody, in front of the world, on the internet, everything. And this is how Justin Bieber, I'm gonna preach about Justin Bieber for the next few minutes, so just hold on to your whatever. This is how Justin Bieber starts his thank you speech. I just wanna say thank you so much, not only to God, but to Jesus, because I wouldn't be here without him. He's really blessed me. He's put me in this position, so I want to say thank you so much. So here's why I'm saying this. I don't know how the rest of his life lines up, okay? So we're just gonna go off this statement. Here's a 17-year-old boy that stands up in front of MTV, everybody, the world, and says, I wanna thank God and I wanna thank Jesus Christ. What immediately happens after that is you hear the crowd of MTV start to boo him. Okay, listen, stay with me though. But then I started doing some research on this. I was looking at the video, I kept watching it over. I found an article by Fox News. Fox News wrote an entire article on the fact that little Biebs walked up on stage and thanked God and thanked Jesus Christ. And here's what they said. The moment that Justin Bieber said, I thank God and I thank Jesus Christ, those words, God and Jesus Christ, started trending at the top in social media. What that means is on Facebook, on Twitter, if you're in 2000, MySpace, that everybody was talking about it, that everybody was asking questions, that it got people talking about God, it got people talking about Jesus Christ. And so what I did is I found a couple of the Twitters that people had wrote or put out there, and it said, God and Jesus are trending. Maybe there is hope for our future. God and Jesus shouldn't trend just because Justin thanked them. They should be trending every day. Actually, while another said, I can honestly say that this year's VMA were the worst so far, but it is pretty cool that God and Jesus are trending because of it. So here's a 17-year-old. Stay with me. Here's a 17-year-old that he goes up onto a stage and he thanks God and Jesus Christ. He gets a ton of critics. Listen, there were articles written on him. There were YouTube videos of people just bashing this 17-year-old for taking a stand for Jesus Christ. But at the same time, man, the world started trending the word Jesus Christ. The world started trending the word God. And so what we've got to remember is that, man, when you live a life and you step out for Jesus Christ, there will always be critics. When you live a life that it honors God and you live a life that Jesus Christ has called us to live, there will always be critics. So my question is your walk with God worthy of criticism from the world? Or would someone look at you and never know that you are a Christian or a follower of Jesus? Is it worthy of criticism? And I'm not saying criticism like in the weird way, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't pray at lunch, Heavenly Father, dost thou breaketh this bread? You know, like, don't be a weirdo. But do you live in such a way? Do you live in such a way that people would look at you and say, I don't understand that person. There's something different about them. The way that they love, the way that they talk to people, the way that they care for people. Is your life, the life that you're living, is it worthy of the world's criticism? I don't know about you, but I want to be criticized for the way that I love others. I want to be criticized because I have morals and beliefs. I want to be criticized because at the end of the day, I want to raise godly children. I want to be criticized for that stuff. I want to be criticized because I'm different. I'm not saying we beat down the world or any of that stuff. What I'm saying is I want to have what I stand on. I want to have my convictions. And I want to be criticized because of that. See, Paul used his critics. Paul said, it doesn't matter what anyone does to me. It doesn't matter what anybody says about me, as long as Jesus Christ is being preached.